Lively's opposition to the MSJ has been filed, and two things I noticed right away. First of all, it's late. It says filed December 4th, 2025, because on the East Coast, it's December 4th. So that's not a good look. I mean, I would have been caught dead filing something this important late. As an associate, you could get fired for that. I don't know why. I think that, and this is not the first time. Next, half this thing is redacted. Like, all that evidence that we were hoping we would see is redacted. Now, most of this is probably going to get unredacted by the court because remember, he said that at a summary judgment stage, he's not going to be inclined to keep a lot of redactions. If you're interested in reading this, which I think you should, everyone should try and read it for themselves. It's a long document, it's 72-page long PDF. But to help orient you, I would recommend starting on page 47 of the PDF, which is page 36 of the brief. And that's really where the argument section comes in. That's really where they are presenting the law and the evidence to support their claims. So they come out the gates by saying Heath's behavior alone, two things that he did, are enough to warrant for the SH claim to go to the jury. And those two things are the showing of the birth scene, which we've talked extensively about, and walking into her trailer and looking at her while she's changing, allegedly. And that's it. Those two things, any reasonable woman would be offended by that, and that's enough. Well, I can tell you that that's not how the standard works. Just because Lively was, quote, degraded and humiliated to the extreme, according to them, doesn't mean that a court will find that any reasonable woman who's an actress portraying someone in a movie about domestic violence would find those things offensive, particularly when she's required to film a birthing scene. And the incidents in question in which he allegedly walks into her trailer and is changing has to do with her breastfeeding her child. They've taken a really weird position about birth. I saw it also in the opposition to the MJOP, which we'll get to that later. But here they're saying that it was wrong of him to show her a birthing scene when she was portraying a birth. And it was also wrong of him to be in the same trailer as her while she was breastfeeding. So that doesn't seem reasonable to me, and I don't know that a court is necessarily going to jump to that conclusion. Next, they say that Wayfarer fostered an environment that was laden with gender bias. But there are no examples. And the things that are there are behind a redaction. So we don't actually know how Wayfarer created a severe and pervasive work environment that was either biased against women or sexual in nature. This is woefully weak. I mean, I'm actually shocked. What I was hoping to see was example after example, deposition transcript after deposition transcript of them showing that there was a severe and pervasive environment of harassment. Instead, in one line, they say multiple women, Lively, Slate, Sachs, Ferrer, Hoover, and Hall, redacted. So what? They all said that they felt harassed? It's one line. They all said the same thing. So how is that severe or pervasive? Also, they weren't the only women at the studio. They weren't the only women on the set. There are women defendants in this case. There were women working at the studio. So where are all of the examples of the severe or pervasive harassing environment against women? They try to say that the nature of the film's material is not an excuse. It doesn't matter that it was a film set, it was a movie set. And to some extent, that's true. It doesn't matter that you work on a film set, you cannot be harassed on a film set. That is true. But you do have to take these things into context. So while it would be woefully inappropriate for my manager to show me a birthing scene as a lawyer that's talking about something that has nothing to do with birthing, it's very different to show a birthing scene to a woman that's portraying a woman who's giving birth. So it does matter. If, for example, the allegations were unrelated to the content of the film, were unrelated to the film completely, such as comments saying like, oh, I think she looks funny, or anything that would be sexual in nature outside of the context of what the film was about, those things to me could arise to a concern when you're talking about severe or pervasive. And essentially, severe or pervasive has to be such that no one could escape it, that the person in question would not be able to escape that type of environment. And I'm not sure that they established that here. What I find kind of rich is this line on page 51 of the PDF that says, Lively may be a movie star, but on the set of the film, Heath and Baldoni were her bosses with total consolidation of power as lead actor, producer, director, co-chairman, president, and CEO. Well, we know that that's not how the power dynamics in this case happened. How can you possibly argue that you had no power when you made a complaint and got every single thing that you wanted? How can you argue you had no power when you were able to take the director's name off of the poster of the movie? When you were able to kick the director out of the premiere and into a basement? They say that this power between Heath and Baldoni threatened her ability to do her job and risked her chemistry with her co-star. What? On the other hand, you're saying that you wrote the scenes and you directed how the scenes should play out. So how is it that you had control and authorship over the scenes and the movie, but you didn't have power to have chemistry with your co-star? And which co-star? Is that Baldoni? It's a strange argument to make. Recall that this entire case started as a sexual harassment case. They spent 4 of 72 pages talking about how they should prevail on their sexual harassment claim. I am genuinely shocked. And it confirms my suspicion that their main gripe is within the retaliation claim, within what they call the alleged online smear campaign. And that I will have to address tomorrow in a separate video.